by Michael Bradley. We couldn't go any further without mentioning that tonight's game is brought to you by BSN Sports, the nation's largest distributor of sporting goods. Drake's, come play. Go see them at the Pinnacle. State Farm Insurance agent Barbara Williams, like a good neighbor. State Farm is there. Moe's Southwest Grill, and then Sesco Insurance Group will be our main sponsor of tonight's game.
For all of your auto, home, life, and commercial needs, call Bearcat alum Jason Stevens at 276-644-9130, offering the right policy with great rates. Sesco Insurance.
We got an interview with Coach Christ. We'll get to that, and we'll have more from the countdown to kickoff here on Bearcat Radio. Welcome to Inside the Huddle on Bearcat Radio. We're here with Coach Mike Christ as the Bearcats get set to face the Tazewell Bulldogs to open 2018 season. First of all, Coach, thank you for joining us.
Hey, glad to be here.
Coming off the success from last year, those 7 wins and hosting the first playoff game since 2002, how has the mood been this offseason, knowing that the talent, you didn't lose all that much from last year?
No, we certainly returned some talented guys. Feel like we returned a lot of key guys. Lost some really good football players, obviously, to graduation. You know, last year's senior class was special. Felt like they kind of got us turned in the right direction for where we wanted to be. But we did return some skill guys. Knew kind of this offseason we had to develop some depth. But at the same token, they were really hungry in terms of how hard we needed to work to put ourselves to be back in that position and hopefully better it.
In the offseason, you had a little bit of adversity, losing your offensive coordinator, Coach Garrett Ambergy, to Abb, and, of course, a great hire for them. And replacing that, you brought in Coach Andrew Belcher, former offensive line coach. He's been around this program for a long time. And what was that transition like, getting ready for fall practice?
You know, it was pretty smooth. We kind of heard some rumors that Darren may be headed out the door in Abingdon, headed back to Gate City. So, I was really open and contacted Garrett and said, this is a rumor I'm hearing. Have you heard this too? And if so, I think they'd be crazy if they don't pursue you. So let's just have an open line of communication. Garrett's somebody I really respect. He was good for our program. And so we were very open with that. Good friends with their superintendent. So I felt like it was a very transparent process all the way through. I felt like it was something he needed to pursue for himself, his career, and for his family. He teaches in their system, so I just felt like it was natural. I felt like they'd be crazy if they didn't reach out to him. He's a tremendous football coach. But then at the same time, during that process, I felt like we had the parts in place to continue on and move smoothly and continue to progress. Andrew has been a guy that's been skilled. He's coached our wide receivers. He's coached our offensive line, so he was kind of the one key cog. The last thing I wanted to do was go back and call the defense. And there were other guys that we talked about possibly, making the transition to coordinator. We just felt in the end he was the best guy. Our staff was on board with that. So, I think he's brought a lot to the table, having worked in both aspects as an offensive line coach and with our wide receivers. He knew our system since we installed it 4 years ago in its inception. So he's really kind of understood what we wanted to do day one. And, it's kind of been fun because, he's been on staff long enough that it can be, hey, what about this that we did during this year? Don't you think this fits? And so he's brought back some of those things that sometimes you forget about or sometimes you don't do anymore. So we transitioned a little bit with what our MO was going to be at the end of the summer, but I think that would have been a natural process no matter who was our offensive coordinator.
Just based on the personnel? So.
Yeah, sometimes you predict what you think you can do well, and you go to summer camp and you say, maybe. And then you get in that early preseason practice and you say, no, this is going to be our MO, and it's a little bit different than what we thought it was going to be. So
you definitely don't want to force it.
No, you have to do what your talent will dictate, and we feel like that's a good part of our system. If we got to run the ball 70 times, we'll do it. If we got to throw the ball 70 times, we'll do that.
So Tazewell hosts you all tonight in a kickoff game on a Thursday night, nonetheless. What are the challenges to play with a new team on the road week one against a team that has a little bit of, sour grapes after last year, 35-0 loss?
Sure. We don't talk much about the opponent, and I know I say that all the time. That's probably pretty boring. But, the kids will tell you what it's about. It's really about us. The only way you dominate an opponent or come back from adversity is just doing your assignment within the system. And I know that's really cliche and really boring, but it's true. So, I feel really good about this group. They're so experienced. They have so much on-the-field experience. I mean, we're talking about a lot of guys played for us as freshmen in certain roles. Aaron Rose, Jamie Lathrop, Colton Ratcliffe, even Austin Davis. All those guys were on the field on Friday nights as freshmen. So now, now they're 4 years in, they're seniors. They correct each other, which is a great thing. They're best friends, but, man, they will correct each other. They're not afraid to tell their buddies when they're wrong or to correct them on the field, and they handle it well. That's probably the difference. I think that's one thing. If we can continue to do that, if they can continue to take somewhat criticism and coaching from their peers and handle it well and take it in for what it's worth, and I think, we got a really good thing going.
So you've talked about some of the trademark names in this program. What about some new names that people need to know about, some players that can make an impact this year?
Well, I think you look at, say, who's a newcomer. Obviously, kind of going down the line, and I hate to, I'd mention every kid's name here, obviously, but you look at Michael Bradley stepping up his role. He's more of a hybrid guy this year. He's going to be involved in slot receiver. He can play some quarterback. He can play some running back. So he can be involved in all those aspects offensively. So we ask a lot of him. He plays defensively. So, you look at a guy like him stepping up his role. Torian Bazell, now he's playing receiver in addition to defensive back. So we expect some big things from him. Then stepping in the offensive line, Dante Harris was defensive lineman for us last year. Now he's got to go both ways. Certainly return Sean Watkins, who I think may be the best offensive lineman in Southwest Virginia. He's a super talented kid that's gotten really, really strong and made huge gains in the weight room. Then Cooper Gobble is the guy who played a little bit as a linebacker. Now he transitioned to offensive line as a tackle. That's big for us. And then, of course, we return Austin Davidson. Colton Ratcliffe played some at receiver. Hunter Wright's a guy who played some situationally as a sophomore. He's back. Defensively, I think the biggest newcomer would be Joseph Kennedy. He's a senior. He's the kind of guy that's just been a program kid, kind of been on the bubble, just does everything exactly like he's supposed to do. And I think you saw in the benefit game, he probably was one of our most productive defensive players. So really happy for him. That's just hard work paying off. John Malum is a new addition to the defensive line. And then, of course, Hunter Wright in the secondary. So everybody else is kind of a mainstay. He's been there a little bit. And then you throw in two freshmen providing depth for us. Stevie Thomas has a chance to be as dynamic a kid as we've ever had here. And I don't throw that out there to put that on him. I think Stevie's a tremendous player. He had a great summer along with Johnny Delaney, who I think can be another really explosive player for us. They had really good summer workouts with us, got involved, went to team camp. So we're excited about them. But, the big thing, the great thing as a freshman is, they can step in the role as they're ready. We have other guys in place, so they're depth providers. At the same token, we expect to see some things from them as the season goes on.
All right, final question here for you, Coach. We'll sort of trim it down for tonight's game. Where will this game be won tonight, most likely? Week 1, where do you feel like? I have a feeling you're about to say where I think you're about to say, but I'll let you know.
I don't know. You can tell me if I'm wrong. It's going to be overall execution. Getting that first game. I think there's going to be some mistakes made. And I think the first game, the hardest aspect of the game is special teams because you've done minimally live. So I think I'd pinpoint it to special teams. We got to make a play in there. We blocked punt last year. I had a big return and kickoff. Those things were big last year in springboard, and it's where we need to be. You can see here, there's a ton of people here, hostile crowd. I feel like everybody in Southwest Virginia came out to see the early game. So, reality is we know those guys over there are going to be sky high. We got to weather the storm and just kind of focus in on what we need to do. Felt like we played tentatively last week, so the big challenge for the offense was to let it rip. Jamie's just got to let that thing go. Let the cards fall where they may. That we don't play tentative, we don't play slow. We just need to fly around a little more.
All right, Coach, we thank you for joining us. Good luck tonight. And you know what I was going to say? I was going to say offensive line because that's usually where you go. But thank you.
Yeah, well, hey, reality is special teams. That'd be the nervous point for me.
Keep
tonight.
An eye on that tonight. So, good luck. We'll have more coming up on Countdown to Kickoff on Bearcat Radio. Welcome.
You're listening to the best high school football in the Tri-Cities on the Bearcat Sports Radio Network.
Welcome back to Countdown to Kickoff, again brought to you by Sesco Insurance Group. Dylan Hutton along with Travis DeBusk, and as we keep chugging along ever closer to kickoff, about 8.5 minutes from now, let's just talk about some of those preseason rankings that we have around the area. CoalfieldSports.com, the Southwest District, they have Graham at the top, 7 votes. Then Richland's got 1 vote for first. They're in second. Third place, our Cats. Then Tazewell, which was a surprise, put them at 4. Then 5, Marion, and 6, Lebanon. On the other side, the Mountain 7, or let's take a look at what the Bristol Herald-Courier put the Southwest District. They did Graham at 1, Richlands 2, Virginia High 3. They mixed it up and put Marion back up at 4. Then put Lebanon at 5 and Tazewell at 6. So quite a big discrepancy there between Coalfield Sports and Southwest.
Yeah, there is.
The coaches, that is.
Personally, I'm going to tend to lean towards that Coalfield Sports ranking there. I believe they're pretty spot on, and Graham and Richlands being a little bit better than Virginia High. I certainly don't think Tazewell is by no means going to be the worst team in the Southwest District. And we really don't know what they have. We've already determined that they're bringing back.
There's a lot of question marks around Marion right now.
Absolutely, yeah, and Marion. And we know Lebanon's situation. We don't think they have very many kids out this year, so they're just probably a few injuries away from having a real rough go at it. But you never know. That's why they play the games, right?
That's exactly right. So we got that one. And then in the Mountain 7, they put Ridgeview at first in the Coalfield Sports with 6 votes. Union at second. They had 2 first-place votes. Abingdon in third. John Battle at 4. Lee County 5th. Wise Central at 6th. And Gate City, they've had a lot of problems over there. They're 7th. In the Bristol Herald-Courier coaches poll, Union at 1, Ridgeview at 2, so a flip-flop. Abingdon at 3. Then at 4, they put Lehigh. Then Wise Central at 5. Put John Battle back to 6, and Gate City at 7. So John Battle goes from 4th in the Coalfield Sports down to 6.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what's going on Trojan Hill again. A lot of question marks there. I'm not as smart, obviously, as some of these sports writers and coaches and whatever. But you know what stands out to me in these Mountain 7 polls is Abingdon at 3 and not getting any first-place votes at all. We've hearing some folks say Abingdon looks like they're going to be a pretty good ball club. Got a lot of kids out this year, going to have plenty of depth, plenty of athletic talent. Of course, we know they've got a new coach.
They've got a good coordinator, a good head coach.
They've got a good coach, and the coaching change does contribute to some of that a little bit. But I think Abingdon's really going to be a contender.
As far as tonight, halftime, we're going to be keeping up with that J.I. Burton and Union game tonight at 7 o'clock. That's the only other game, and I believe it's a rare game in Virginia today. We got just a few games.
That's right, yeah. So there's 2 games here in far southwest Virginia tonight. Us, of course, Burton at Union coming up here in just a few minutes also. But there's only 8 games total across the Commonwealth tonight, and 2 of them down here in southwest Virginia.
The pride of the state line marching band just finished their performance. They're off the field. We'll see Tazewell's band take the field in a moment as we get close to the kickoff of the 2018 season. Burton and Union will play tonight at 7 o'clock as Union will start the road back to state after losing their star recruit, James Mitchell, who's making some noise in Travis's second home, Blacksburg, up there at Virginia Tech. So be interesting how they do without James. He was a playmaker. They made it to the semifinals last year before Appomattox County beat them 23-20. Union beat J.I. Burton last year 35-0. Union is 7-0 all-time against J.I. Burton. Of course, Union's only been around since 2011. So that's an interesting game, but that's the only other game.
We got to see the Union Bears last week in our benefit game there in Bristol against Virginia High. And Union, they look like there's not much drop-off, though, from last season and what we've seen last week.
And we have some good ones going on in Southwest Virginia on Friday night. I believe we're going to cover those at halftime because of the pace of the pregame show. We want to get you prepared for tonight's game and get you to know your opponent. The Tazewell Bulldogs, this 2018 team could be a dangerous squad. They're young and talented. They return all but 3 players from last year's team, and they went 3-7 last year, played a tough schedule. as we'll take a look at their record and recent meetings. We'll go to Travis for that.
Yeah, well, we'll take a look about. Let's go all the way back to the first time these two teams ever met, which was in September of 1928. All right, Virginia High won that game 37-0 over at Teneva Field. And interesting note here, Tazewell, of course, we know them now traditionally in their green. They have been for quite some time. But in that very first meeting, they were dressed in maroon and white. We found that to be pretty interesting. Let's